Okay, so in this video we're going to go through the examples for Unit 2A, so all about symmetry. Okay, and remember this is no calculators in this so far. We haven't used calculators at all, so try and do this all manually if you can. So question 1, it tells us if sine of theta equals 0.63, and then we're going to do A, find sine of 180 minus theta. Now, you're probably all pretty tempted to use the inverse of sine and find out what theta actually is before you start that. I'm telling you now you don't have to, but if you don't believe me, that's fine. Sine of theta equals 0.63. If you invert it, theta is about 40 degrees. But you don't need to know that. What you do need to know is that it's going to be less than 90 degrees. Okay, so if I draw my unit circle for this first one, that was absolutely shocking. But I can't get rid of it. Ah! Okay, if I draw my unit circle for the first one, I know that 180 is sitting over here. Okay, and I'm taking away theta. So I don't know exactly where it is, but it's somewhere in here. Okay, it might be there-ish. It might be over there. It might be 89.4. It's somewhere in the second quadrant. Okay, now thinking about my symmetry, that means that I'm in the second quadrant where only sine is positive. So if sine's in here, we know that the answer is positive. Okay, positive 0.63. And that's all you have to do. Okay, they're telling you that theta is 0.63. You just have to find out whether it's positive or whether it's negative. So this one down here is very similar, except they've told you tan of theta is 0.21. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw or think about our unit circle. We're going to find where pi is, which is 180. So sorry for picking a very similar example. And we're going to add pi. So we know that 180 plus a bit, we're going to end up in this quadrant here. And if you remember our all stations towards central or cast, only tan is positive in this third quadrant. So this answer is positive 2.1. Okay, so all you're trying to do with these first ones is find out which quadrant they fit into and whether they're going to be positive or negative. They've already given you half the answer. They've given you the value. You've just got to find out whether it's positive or negative. So question 2 is a bit harder. Question 2 is where we need to take in a bit more information or more options that they give us. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw or think about our unit circle. We're looking for pi, which is 180, plus a little bit. So we're somewhere in here. Okay, and then we want to find out sine of that. So in this third quadrant, all stations towards central, sine is negative. So we know our answer is going to be negative something. Okay. Later on, we will find out what sine would be. But here, they've actually given us the answers. So we've got sine theta, which is what we're using here. So it's negative 0.42. If we look down here, we're going to do the exact same thing. They've given us parts of the answer. We just haven't got all of it together yet. So we're looking for 2 pi, which is here. And then we're taking a bit off that. So we're at 2 pi, we're going back a little bit. We're at this quadrant here. So in that quadrant, cos is positive. Ooh, don't know what happened there. Down here. Okay, so cos is positive. We know our answer is going to be positive something. And they've answered it for us up here, cos of x is 0.7. Okay, so we're getting there little bit by little bit. And then in the next question, no, that's the same thing. When we get to these questions here, we'll do all of it together. Okay, so that's in degrees. Nope, still lying to you, radians. And then we're down to this one. We're going to do a very similar approach. We're going to do a unit circle. And then we are going to split our radians. So I'm going to rewrite this as cos of 7 times pi on 8. Okay, so just like up here, these were kind of split out, because when we're doing symmetry, it makes it much easier to split it out. We're going to do the same thing down here. Now this pi on 8, okay, cos pi on 8, gives us most of the answer. So we know that our answer is going to be either a positive or negative 0.924. We've just got to figure out, is it positive or is it negative? And we're going to do that by drawing it. Okay, now we know that pi on 8, we know that pi is an entire line. Okay, so pi on 8, if we want to, we can convert that to degrees using our formula, which I believe it's about 22.5-ish. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Or we can split this up into 8 parts. Okay. So if we split this up into 8 parts, we want 7 of them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are here. Okay, 7 times pi on 8, we're there. So 2 different ways of doing it. You can do it that way visually. You can recognize that 7 pi on 8 is less than 1. Therefore, it's going to be up here. If it's more than 1, it's going to be over here. And you can also use your formula sheet to convert it to degrees and then times that by 7. Okay, so 3 different ways, and you'll get lots of practice with those, whichever one you choose. Okay. So I'm going to follow my little picture here. I'm a visual person. I've got my line there. That is in the second quadrant where only sign is positive. So my answer is going to be negative 0.924. Okay, let's try this one up here. So cos of negative pi on 8. I've done a really bad, I might actually pick a different one. I'll do another one after this. So we're going to go pi on 8. We can think visually, we can split it into 8. Okay, so it's a little bit, but the negative there means we're going the other way. So it's a little bit this way instead. So if we remember our cast diagram or our all stations towards central, which I prefer because if I think of it as cast, I start off in the wrong quadrant. Cos is positive in this quadrant. So we are positive 0.924. Right. I might do this one here. No. Let's do the first one. Okay. Sine of pi, 9 pi on 8. I'm going to split it. Okay. The first bit is going to give me whether it's positive or negative. The second part is going to give me the number or the value. So pi on 8, sine of pi on 8, we're over... Oh, I think I've deleted the information here. This is meant to be sine over here, sine of pi on 8. I've somehow cropped it out. So that gives us 0.383. And then we're going to try and figure out, is it positive or negative? So again, a couple of different ways. You can think 9 pi on 8 is greater than 1. So it's going to be in here. That's one way of thinking of it. Another way is to split. Sorry, my computer's having massive issues today. That's better than what normally happens. It normally deletes all my stuff. All right, so if we are up here and we're doing it visually, we're going to split into 8 pieces. And we've got 9 of them. So 8 gets us here, and then we've got another little one which gets us there. So 2 different ways of doing it. We're in the third quadrant where tan is positive, so our answer is going to be negative. Now we're going to bring all of that stuff together. So we're going to be figuring out what quadrant it is it positive or negative, and what is the actual value. Okay, and we're going to be using symmetry to do that. So I'm going to do it two ways that we used in the theory video. I'm going to do it first visually, and then secondly using the worded version. So sine of 150, I'm going to do it visually by drawing my unit circle and popping a line where 150 is. So I know it's more than 90 and less than 180. I'm going to pop it there. Doesn't need to be too accurate. And I'm going to figure out the degrees from my line to the closest horizontal. Okay, I think this is the one we actually did in the theory video. So to get from 150 to 180, that's 30 degrees. Okay, so 30 degrees, I'm looking for sine of 30 degrees. And if I go to my formula sheet, sine of 30 is 1/2. It's in the second quadrant, which means that my answer is positive. Okay, so that's the visual way. The worded way, I'm going to change it to be 180 minus 30. Okay, which is the same as sine of 30, which equals 1/2. Right, let's try another one. This one down here, again, I'm going to do it visually first. So we go our unit circle, and we find where 135 is, remembering that we're going the opposite way because it's negative. So 135 would be here-ish. Okay, and we need to find out how can we get the closest horizontal. So we're trying to get to 180 essentially. My brain's not quite awake, so I'm going to do this manually. It's 45 degrees to the closest horizontal. Right. So now we just need to find out, well, what is sine of 45 degrees? Sine of 45 degrees is root 2 on 2. Okay, we found the value. Now we have to find, is it positive or is it negative? It's in the third quadrant, so our answer is negative. Okay, let's have a look at the worded. The worded ones, if you have a look, can be a little bit confusing with the positives and the negatives. So if you're not sure which one to use, I'd probably go the visual one, because once you get used to it, you can do it kind of in your head very easily. But if you've been using the worded one, obviously that's going to make more sense to you. So I am trying to get to 180, or negative 180, sorry. So we're going to go, same thing, negative 180 plus 45, okay, will give us our negative 135. Right. And then we are going to bring this negative out the front and go sine of 45. Sine of 45 we know is root 2 on 2, and we've got the negative as well, there as well. So if you're not sure, again, I'd go this one. The worded one can be confusing with the positives and the negatives. And the very last one we're going to do the exact same thing, but with radians, which can be done two ways. So the first way that you can do it with radians is you can convert it to degrees and do it just like one of those. Okay, that's one option. And I'll show you a quick way to do that as well. The other option is to to split it and then to think about what it means. So if we split it, we're looking at pi on 4, which splits this half into 4, and we've got 5 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're there. Okay, so if you can get the hang of that, that is the quickest way of doing it. The other way you can do it, you can use a formula, or you can think pi on 4 is 45, 45 times 5, and do it that way. Okay, rather than 5 times 180 and then simplify. So a few options there. If you can leave it in radians, it's much quicker. So I've done my pi on 4. I've times it by 5. I'm sitting there. So I am sitting in the third quadrant where cos is negative. And then I just have to find out, well, what is pi on 4 or cos of pi on 4? And we've got there root 2 on 2. Okay, let's try another one like that. Down here, negative 5 on 4. Have I done the same thing? 5 on 4. I have. I'll pick a different one. Let's go sine 2 on 3. Okay, so I'm going to split it. I'm going to divide my pi into 3 pieces. What am I doing? Yes, that's 3 pieces. And then I'm going to have to put them. So 1, 2, I'm up here. Okay, so we are in where sine is positive, so number n is going to be positive. And then I'm finding sine of pi on 3. Sine of pi on 3 is root 3 on 2. Okay, that is one option. Or we can figure out that pi on 3 is 60. 2 times 60 is 120. Sine of 120, draw, mark, and go again. Okay, try and stick with the radians if you can. And that's it. So I hope that gives you a starting point to do those exercises, and good luck.